Hello, this is the Smiling Conscious Traveler podcast. I'm Ottmar Braunecker from Austria, and my guest today is Eszter Minor. Right now, she is in Hungary with her family. Let me introduce her to you with her own words. Eszter Minor, native Hungarian, lived in the US for 27 years. She spent almost 2 decades in the self-help world, first as a student and later as a facilitator, speaker, and coach. A couple of years ago, she walked away from what seemed at the time a whirlpool of ideas without the experience of what she believed about life, growth, and coaching. Without even knowing, she started to unlearn a lifetime of habits, beliefs, thoughts, and paradigms, and started to dive into the emotional part of life, which up until that time she believed was a dangerous hole to look into. The past couple of years, she focused on relearning to just be, to be present, and through this focus, she remembered the freedom, peace, joy, and adventure. So she desperately was trying to figure out all those in those years, these things. Since then, she surrendered and began to be more present and conscious of her choices, thoughts, and actions. And she noticed a huge desire for travel, adventure, and curiosity and freedom, not only in herself, but in the world too. So now, regardless of what the seemingly outside world says is possible, she lived a very minimalistic life, traveling and being with people on a new level as she is being with herself on a whole new level. Today, as she travels and creates new relationships, she lives and stands and speaks freedom and self-care while she focuses on dissolving human trafficking through love, safety, and transparency. She is working on creating a brand new platform where people can come together and experience freedom through celebrating diversity and reminding them to be safe by their own truth. Welcome, Eszter, to my show.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
I know it was a long introduction, but I decided not to shorten it because I didn't find anything what I could take out. It was everything important what you wrote there.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
And honestly, I didn't change it. So that's why I was interrupting all the time because you wrote it with I and I had to change it to she. You might have realized that. So, my first question is, 1 week ago, you traveled from the US to Hungary to visit your family. So how was your journey and how do you feel now?
Wow, my journey was very different from what I actually expected. It was easy. It was eye-opening, adventurous. I met a lot of great people along the way. I noticed that different mandates that companies, airlines, airports, maybe countries even talk about are not as stiff, if you please, than as they make it sound like. I had a very easy and simple and peaceful trip, really. And other than it was long, I enjoyed most of it. And some of it that was a little more stressful, let's say, I was able to welcome it with curiosity and some ease.
Mm, mm. I remember you had some kind of interesting experiences when you landed in Zurich. How did you experience this city?
Um, it was very laid back. If I didn't know about a pandemic, I would have never even realized there was something happening. People were very open. People were just living their lives. Just simple signs of on transport. People would wear a mask. But other than that, people were out living their lives, standing on the side of the street, tourists sitting in cafes, having a beer or having just normal. It really felt like, if you want to call it normal, easy. People were just living their lives. That's what it seems to me.
Because you just mentioned normal. I remember that I have a colleague in this course where I'm making a podcast, and he's having a bar. He's selling whiskey there on all different kinds of flavors. And he posted a video of how life used to be at his bar 1 year ago and how is it now. And 1 year ago, this video was like they were celebrating life, they were playing music, and he said it changed so much. And this is what we call, obviously, this new normal, or the politicians at least call it like this. I don't like to call it like that, because for me, it is not the new normal. I just want to get away from this new normal and to have a different life. And actually, I don't want to get back to the old normal. I want to have a different world.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And maybe my perception of just people living like quote unquote normal or being that way, maybe it's, to me, it comes from that I like to look at things with more ease and with curiosity instead of that fear of who, what, where, why. And that would be my answer to why I perceived it as just laid back and people living their lives and just just doing what they were enjoying doing, really. Conversations, going on their way, whatever that might be normal is from before the pandemic.
I mean, actually, I do it the same way. I say, why should I do it different than before? It's my life. That's how it is, and I do it that way. The only thing what changed in my life, and this has not so much to do with the pandemic, is that I'm walking much more consciously through this world. It has more to do with my new podcasts, that I'm presenting the people my way of, I present them my place where I live and where I walk around. And I do this consciously.
Yes, I can definitely recognize the consciousness. I noticed that I was a lot more conscious of people and how I was communicating with them and being more present with them. Not only because I found that with that I can notice a lot more about people, but also just to be conscious of how other people are responding, reacting to what is, and have that respect to see someone that might not feel safe, so that I can be that safety container for them in that moment. And I found my curiosity and that consciousness and that presence created that opportunity for people to have a easy, friendly conversation. While, to be honest, I didn't have that in every stop of my travel in the States or even in Lisbon. I noticed a little bit of more tension in other places. People were more, especially in the States, people were more like, have their guards up. Where in Zurich, in that short amount of time, I noticed people are more relaxed or more focused on what they're doing and just keep moving forward with it.
I just remembered actually a few old people here in the city where I live in Salzburg. They turned around when it was too little space. They just turned away from me, standing still there as if I'm dangerous. And somehow it made me laugh. I didn't want to embarrass anyone, but it made me laugh somehow. How can people be so scared of something what is actually, now let me say it straight, what is not real. What is just fear-mongering from the media. And that is actually why these old people are afraid. I perceive it that way.
Yes, I see that with a lot of people. I had that experience in the last few months that their beliefs are so, some people has such a strong beliefs about something that no matter what they will be surrounded with, no matter who's around them with a smile or with that ease, it's so embedded in them that that's all they hear or see. And I like to look at them as a reminder that maybe part of me is has some fear also, but I also remind myself to stay at stay at ease and smile no matter what anybody else is doing, because to me that's usually when I would be in that place in the past, if somebody smiled, I know it had a so-called effect on me. Just kind of gave me this, oh, okay, I can relax. It might not be as bad as I perceive it if this person is smiling at me. And so I just choose to walk around with a smile on my face and be real. And if I'm not in that space to really enjoy it, and then I'll be real about that too, and it will show. But I prefer to be transparent. I prefer to be as authentic and real as possible in each moment. Um, as I found it in the past that faking it till I'm making it, which is really one of those self-help ideas, actually drained me out in all kinds of ways, mentally, emotionally, and physically, because it was just this constant trying to be someone I'm not. It was constant resistance of how I felt, what I really preferred, and what I was really thinking about. And that constant resistance, I see it from where I'm at right now. It was really the foundation of a lot of my suffering. So these days, I just prefer to be real. If I feel sad, if I feel angry, if I feel joyful, it doesn't matter how I feel. I prefer to be real. In the same time, I prefer to respect other people's experiences and really focus on creating a win-win by allowing them to have their experiences, and I also stay true to mine. And that to me is huge these days, especially hearing people, kind of go into you're doing this to me, you're at fault, it's you who causing this, and so on and so forth. And that's, I don't agree with that, but I respect that perspective in the same time.
Let's talk a little bit more about traveling. You said to me that you want to travel through whole Europe. And so what are your plans till the end of the year?
So right now, I'm in Hungary, and I'm going to stay here for a little bit, at least for a month or so. And I have this idea for my birthday in October, or in the fall. I love the fall. I love the change of the season, the colors. And I've been invited to a couple of different countries in Europe, so I'm going to take advantage of that. One is in Austria. Come to see you.
Yeah, of course, you're welcome.
And also, I had someone just invite me in very north part of Italy just a couple of days ago. I also have some friends
from here.
Yes, I also have some friends in Belgium that invited me. So I haven't really decided on exactly where I'm going to go, but what I would like to do is at least take a week and just take the train and just be spontaneous and go connect with these friends and meet them in person and spend some time with them, and just be curious and be present and be spontaneous with what I get to experience and how rest of Europe is these days.
Exciting. I just have one question in mind, what has to do with COVID. I don't really want to talk too much about it, but maybe you have more information than me. How is it actually when you travel from country to country and here in Europe? Do you have to stay another 2 weeks every time you change the country in quarantine?
No, not to my knowledge. So what I know now, it's country to country different. So before I travel, I will definitely be checking in with each country's mandates and status, and what they are okay with, what's the travel restrictions would be depending on. Right now in Hungary, and I haven't checked it a few days, but a few weeks ago, they came up with this color coding system.
Like traffic lights,
Yeah, like traffic lights, the green, the yellow.
They do it in Austria too now.
Okay, so
really weird system.
Yes, that's the reason why I'm in quarantine because my original
Because
I
you
was
come from a dangerous part of the world.
yes, I was
So
traveling from a yellow country, which is the United
it's
States.
so weird.
But because of the different color codes of the different countries, um, every country had a little bit of a different experience when I was traveling through. You know, I was very surprised with Miami. It was more laid back than I would have expected, even though the airport was pretty much empty and dead, which was very weird to me. From there, I flew to Lisbon, where it was more strict than Miami for sure, but not so bad. It wasn't like crazy. And then from there, I went to Zurich, where of course it was even just more relaxed and more at ease. And then from there, I took the train all the way through from Switzerland to Austria into Hungary, and I slept through the night on the train. So until I got to Hungary, I didn't even have any checking at the border. Like there was no border check.
I mean, I remember a friend from Germany. He visited me last week, and he was actually scared that they will check him when he goes back to Germany, because he is actually a colleague also from the podcast course, and he just lives 40 kilometers away from me, just across the German border. And he said, I definitely don't want to have any checkups now, that they control me if I'm not sick when I come back from Austria. And his wife actually warned him, and he took then some small country roads to avoid the highways, so that he could sneak into Germany without any tests. So
Yes,
that's what I wanted you.
that
Why I talked
surprised
about
me.
it.
That one part of it was surprising to me because the research I've done before my trip was very deep, so that I make sure that I can get here. And
I tell you
I
honestly, and
actually
it's changing every day.
it is changing every day, but I
Also,
actually believe that would be a border control checking when I enter the country, even on the train, but because of the EU and different relationships between countries, there is none. So to my understanding, it's only in the airport and or at different borders, but not on the train. So I personally made the call to the health department here, and they initiated the quarantine and all the other stuff.
yeah, I mean, I think we could talk a lot about this topic. The only thing what I would like to add is what David Icke said in the last interview with Brian Rose, that actually the more you test, the more you find false positives.
Yes, I have to agree. I had the chance to take a test. That was one of my options to get out of the quarantine. However, due to the research and then just the information that I looked up and I received and talked to people working in the lab in the US, as well as talked to one of the clinics who's doing the testings personally, I actually chose not to go that route, to take the 2 tests so that I could get out of the quarantine and spend all that money on it, because I honestly, I don't trust the testing. I would rather do the 2 weeks and work around the house and still enjoy myself and relax. And I have a lot of work to do, than to give that power to someone else and some kind of test that there's just too much uncertainty surrounds right now. That was one of the reasons I chose not to.
I mean, you might have realized that I have somehow the same belief like David Icke, that this virus doesn't really exist. And I even believe now that there is no any virus in this world, that viruses are just invention of the medical system. And yeah, actually, like Brian Lee Ridgway said, there is a lot of dis-ease in this world, but yeah, there is no viruses actually.
I saw something today that really had me go, whoa, wait a minute. And it's so true, that in the past, if I went to the doctor when I did with something viral, they would send you home and go, we can't do anything about viral. You have to let it run its course. If it's bacterial, they would give you antibiotics. But viral, they just send you home and say, hey, there's nothing we can do for you. Just go home and let it run its course. So that had me really pause and get curious, like, okay, wait a minute. If that's how we have been treated by medical professionals in the past, and that's my experience, when it came to viral infections, how is this any different? And why is it that we all of a sudden now looking for a cure and medication and treatment for it? While up until now, anytime I personally went to a medical professional with a viral infection, I was told we cannot do anything about it, go home and let it run its course. So that really got me thinking and just kind of be curious of what is really going on. And I'm not into, telling people what to believe or anything. However, I do highly recommend to just be curious and ask questions and to dig and just start looking around for ourselves and remember that we have the free will to choose of what to think, what to believe, and what kind of actions to take based on that, and to question everything, to be curious. And that's to me, curiosity is really creativity. Because the more curious, the deeper curiosity I present within myself, the more creative I notice I'm becoming, and the more possibilities I notice for all kinds of different things I want to create. So I'm not about telling people what to believe. I'm definitely not about telling people if they're wrong or right. I'm all respecting everybody's choices and perception. But I do highly recommend people to start thinking for themselves and remember that they are free beings to do that, to free thinking.
Yeah, it's definitely something. I watched a video of, let me first talk about Brian D. Ridgway, because I mentioned him at least 2 times now, and people might not know who he is. And actually, I would say he's the one who brought us together. Like many other people whom I know, I got to know him through him. He is someone who created something what he calls level 5 mentoring, and with a bunch of different programs, and he even wrote a book about break your self-health addiction. So by the way, shout out to his book. It's for free. You can download it. Just contact me if you want to have the link. I can give it to you. So that's how we found together, because we joined the program. I think it was the Liberation 4.0 program that we met each other. I don't remember that it was earlier that I saw you before. I just have to think, because I know so many people through Brian D. Ridgway, so I don't even know anymore when it was. So yeah, thank you for that. I'm so glad that I met you. And the other thing is what I wanted to say. I watched a video today from Brian D. Ridgway. He called it Triggers and, how was it? Triggers and, I don't remember now. Anyway, so I think I lost the thread a little bit. Yeah, it was about the educational system. Now I remember what I wanted to say. And also about being curious and asking questions, because that's what you mentioned before. And nowadays it seems to be not appropriate anymore to be curious and to ask questions. It's like everything is like, yeah, especially he talks about this Floyd thing about Black Lives Matters, and yeah, that if you talk about these things, you're racist right away. And yeah, I think the same way like you. It's like I respect people's opinions and I respect what people believe in, but I expect also that they respect what I believe in. And if not, it's also fine with me. Then I don't respect it. I will think that way anyway. I don't care what other people think or believe. Or I'm still curious, and I want to figure out what I believe. Yeah, is my truth. Let's say it this way, because there is not only one truth, as some people state. There is always my truth. This is my perspective, so that's why it's this way. Anyway, I'm just ranting about different things, but I guess it was quite interesting. Yeah, let's stick with this topic, because you had, I would, that's how I perceived it. You had quite a couple of crises in your life, and I think this person whom I just mentioned before helped you a little bit to get out of this.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, okay.
Just a little bit, yes.
Where do we start, actually? You choose.
Oh,
Choose
okay.
something where you want to
You
start.
yeah, you mentioned Brian Ridgway, and yes, absolutely, that's how we met, is through his work. And I met Brian actually last September. It was one of those moments where I walked away from everything that I knew with the sensation of I just knew that inner knowing that was like, okay, it's time for you to walk away. It's just trust, really just trust this process you're in without having to know everything, and just dive in. And I did that. I dove in and I really I did some really deep inner work for over a year, since like April 2018 till September 2019. And I found myself really stuck around August, September of 2019. And I find myself in this space like, okay, I was like, I really wish I could find something or someone who could help me through this part of this part of my journey, this part of my process, because I just couldn't move that next pebble to get to the other side. And of course, I'm very intuitive and I trust my intuition more now than ever. And one day I just had this nudge to get on Facebook. I was doing like three other things all of a sudden. Stop everything, get on Facebook. So I did, and all of a sudden he popped up. He was getting interviewed with someone who I just met like literally a week before. So it was so one of those perfect moments. And as soon as I heard him talk, I just felt like this is what I've been asking for. This is what I've been really wanted. And just to make long story short, I was really in a deep place of just getting ready to give up. I was at the place where really frustrated with all the work I've done, and just having this thought all the time that something was missing for me to get me to the next level. And Brian brought that. Brian really brought that. Brian helped me. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything for me. He just presented things in a way that I was able to see what was in front of me. He was presenting things in such an authentic and transparent and real. And some might perceive him as abrupt and like just like maybe even rude if you don't know him. However, his authenticity and transparency and realness was such a refreshing experience for me after 2 decades in a personal growth world, which I experienced a lot of inauthenticity and mind stuff, and that I really just let my guard down in a sense of I surrendered, and I started working with him. And it's really remarkable of just one little tiny thing of that he presents in his work, how big of a difference it can make, from absolutely having suicidal thoughts last September, and now less than a year later, given the circumstances of the world too, I am more excited about traveling. I am more excited about meeting new people. I am more excited about being with my family and just being here and being present and showing up and just being myself and not having all those thoughts and beliefs and emotions that was absolutely keeping me in this prison that I built for myself. So in reality, I was really keeping myself in the prison. So, if anybody's interested in Brian's work, just like you mentioned, just reach out to you and go get his free book. It's really Break Your Self-Help Addiction.com. You can download it. You can reach out to him if you called, if you welcome it. But he really helped me break through some of those experiences that you're talking about, which is human trafficking. And I experienced partner sex trafficking as well as labor trafficking through borders of, from Europe to the United States. I worked in the jail, so I've been sexual assaulted by inmates. I've been through relationship where I was raped by my own partner. So I have those experiences, and those are some of the things that people are like, oh, like it can trigger, just talking about it can trigger people's traumas. And the reason I can talk about them is so freely, it's not because it's not effective. It's not because I don't have anything. I'm still working through them layer by layer by layer, but I can talk about them because I dove in and I just chose my own freedom, and I chose my own peace, and I chose my own life over letting all those experiences and denying really all those experiences for so long, and living in my own prison. So that's one of the reasons I can speak so freely about it. But it does not mean that I don't have moments when I'm feeling the sadness, the fear, the anger, or that any memories come up that still stirs me up. It's just for me different because I am committed to being free. And when I'm talking about freedom, I'm talking about emotional freedom. I'm talking about mental freedom. I'm talking about a freedom to travel. I'm talking about a freedom to be safe. I'm talking about a freedom to connect with people and see the world through the new eyes of that conscious, present self that I know I am.
Yeah. You mentioned something before. You were talking about human trafficking, and actually I watched a video today on your Facebook fan page. How is it called actually? It was the Soul Warrior Living, not so? Yeah. And the last video really opened my eyes why you're talking so much about human trafficking. You actually just mentioned it, what you said. And I'm a little bit worried to ask this question, but I will ask it anyway. It's your choice to answer it or how you want to answer it. What do you mean by first-hand experience with human trafficking?
Means that I was trafficked. Means that I experienced the sex trafficking here in Hungary when I was a teenager, and that from that I actually, human trafficking is very sickening to people, especially with everything going on in the world right now, all this pedophilia and all this elite, just everything that people are hearing about. It's. I have friends coming to me going, I don't even know how to process this. This is so disturbing, and because I speak openly about it, I share openly, and so really having the first-hand experience means that I've been trafficked, and I'm very loud about it these days, because not just because of what's going on in the world, but because traffickers use people's vulnerabilities to control and manipulate them into a situation where they can take control of them. And they do it by preying on the child's vulnerability, on their needs, wants, and desires. And as a teenager, and I will make this as a disclosure every time, I have an amazing family. I have amazing parents. I love them. They are hard workers. I will stand for them any day. They didn't do anything wrong. The emotional intelligence and that safety, they had no idea how to be there for me or for my brother when it comes to emotionally. So when I was a teenager, and there was an ugly divorce going on in my family, which had some other pretty traumatic factors of it, which I'd rather not talk about because that's their experience. However, the effect on me as a teenager was it was on a level where I was seeking this belonging kind of thing at that time. Like I just wanted to belong somewhere where I felt safe, where I felt like I was heard, so that was my vulnerability at the time. I had the trauma of the divorce. I had, years of growing up of not feeling like my emotions and my feelings mattered or anything I wanted. And there's a lot of people, like millions of people actually have the experience. We're just not conscious of it. And so traffickers will prey on that. Oh, wait, you want to, like, I will tell you exactly what you need to hear so that you believe that I truly care about you. But in reality, the intention is to rope you into a situation where I can control you and you have absolutely no choice but to do as I say. It's true for labor trafficking. It's true for sex trafficking. It's true with adults. It's true with kids. It's true with anybody who experiences human trafficking. And there's many facets of it too. And a lot of people don't know those facets. So when I say I first had experienced it, I had a partner I was dating, and I just roped into with the manipulation into sex trafficking here in Hungary. Then someone saw my situation because I was desperate to get out. I was drinking, as a 16, 17-year-old, 2 bottles of vodka a night just to survive, basically. And then someone saw that as an opportunity to go, I can help you. And gave me showed me this. I can help you get out of here. I can help you get to the States where I have a job for you. I have a house for you. There are other people. And within a couple of months, you can make all this money. You can come right back home and you can show your family what I'm making. And that is the vulnerability. When a teenager is so down already, when I was so down to go, I'm the black sheep of a family. My parents hate me. My brother hates me. All I want is an opportunity to prove that I'm a good person. And then someone gives me that opportunity. You blindly, from that pain, from that pain and from that desperation, I was like, oh my God, here's my savior. Which then I found out it was labor trafficking. So when I got to the States, and I was basically thrown into the curbs, the front door of a strip club, and was told, go make money. And we'll be here every 10 o'clock at night to collect the money. You say anything to anybody, your family, threats, was going on. I don't know what happened. I really don't know. I just know that let's just say someone was watching over me. The owner, and this is not a secret, the owner of the club at the time saw something was off. Like, he just knew something was off. And he had them pull me aside and put me in the office. And I was at the place where I just like, I got nothing to lose at this point, really. Yeah. And he asked me what's going on, and I spoke enough English at the time, but I just laid all my cards on the table. I said, "This is what's happening. We're staying in a hotel. We're demanded to give our money away every night. We were promised this, and this. I have no way of going anywhere else. Blah blah blah." And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what happened, as I never heard from those people ever again. I was just told, do not leave the club, do not go outside in that parking lot 10 o'clock tonight, and just stay right here. And after we're closing, we'll figure something out. So I do not know after all these years what happened, and I don't wish to. All I know is that they brought me to safety. The owner himself paid for a hotel for 2 weeks and said, you can pay me back whenever if you choose to. And if you still want to have a job, you can work for me. That's fine. And that's pretty much how I was saved. And
Actually, still somehow a lucky ending, even though it's a horrific story.
it is, and at times, you know, and honestly, I had no idea, and that is something it's pretty common. I had no idea I was trafficked until almost 15 years later that I had the perception going, wait a minute, what? That was my experience. And it was really just 10 years ago exactly when I was in college getting my criminal justice degree, and one of my professors were going on one of our classes were going over human trafficking, and they were going over what it looks like or all the stuff. And I remember sitting there and just going, huh? What? Wait, can you repeat that? I had that recognition of, oh my God, I was trafficked. And that's pretty normal for trafficking, like victims. I see myself as a victim, but that's pretty normal for people to have that disconnect of the experience. So that's really my story in a nutshell. And that's why I'm so loud. That's why I'm so consistent. And that's why you're seeing all my posts about it, because I want to bring attention to the possibility of dissolving human trafficking by giving people the tools to educate themselves of what they can do, as well as what they can be aware of, the signs, just to learn, to educate themselves and to make choices from there, how they want to be part of a solution for dissolving human trafficking.
I mean, actually, that's why I told you that this is a topic where we could talk long about it. I don't know how to say it. I don't have first-hand experience, but somehow second-hand, I would say. Because my ex-girlfriend from Nigeria was also a victim from human trafficking. And all what I know, I mean, I don't know much actually. I just put it somehow, the pieces together to figure out what happened actually. And the evidence was very strong that she was a victim of human trafficking. And at the end, I had the conclusion it must have happened this way, but she never really talked open about it. Yeah, I'm not sure if I should tell the story now, but I will make a short version from it, because I could easily write a book about this whole story, and I guess you too, about your story. Because the whole thing lasted at least 3 years when we were together. It was more than something like an on and off relationship with her. And at the end, I would say she was somehow in love with me. But at the beginning, it was more purpose for her to be together with me, to first of all to keep her safe somehow, and second, she hoped that I will give her money to pay those people who were following her. So I think the best start is from this story is how I met her. I met her actually here in Salzburg, in the same city where I live now. And I met her through another Nigerian man whom I told that I'm looking for an African woman. I would really love to have an African woman as my partner. And he said, maybe I can help you with that. And he introduced me to this woman. And she was actually officially an asylum seeker without any papers. And on this evening, we met at his apartment, and she cooked for me. And then she said, I have to go now. I said, yeah, where do you go? I will escort you. And she said, where I'm going now, you can't escort me. At the end, I figured somehow out she goes to the main central station of Salzburg here, but more she didn't want to tell me. Months later, I figured out it must have been somehow a client from her, because at this time she worked as a prostitute for those people who trafficked her to Austria. And to make it a little bit shorter, she told me at a certain point, Otmar, I can't tell you anything about how I came here to Austria. I would endanger your life too. And at this point, it was clear for me, the evidence was clear for me that she must have been trafficked, because I found also in her private bags, because at a certain point, I normally don't do that I make research in my girlfriend's private things, but she didn't want to tell me anything. So she was out one evening and she was at the club somewhere. And I said, let me figure out now the truth. And I turned everything around what I found. First of all, I found the papers from the police when she came to Austria, the interview when they said, okay, she's an asylum seeker now. So I knew, okay, she arrived officially in Tyrol. That was the first evidence. Second, I found old pictures from Italy because she was standing in front of cars posing and there was Italian plate IDs. I said, okay, that fits quite well together what my father told me. My father gave me an article from a newspaper about the human trafficking routes from Nigeria, which is through the desert and then coming through Libya and then through Italy and then to Tyrol,
Wow.
which is the border, the province which you enter when you come from Italy, the province in Austria, Tyrol. And the border is called Brennero in Italian. Big mountain pass and a very busy traffic route through Europe, and obviously also for human traffickers. And there they dropped her. And then she was on her own. They told her to apply for asylum. And then they picked, some other people picked her up and said, okay, we brought you here now. Now you have to pay for it. You have to work for us. And that cost a lot of money.
Yep.
Somewhere, I don't know exactly how much she owes them or owed them, but it was somewhere between 30 and 50,000 euros. Yeah, and that's why she worked as a prostitute, because they forced her to work as a prostitute. And
yes,
there is way more to this story than I just told you, but I think it gives a good overview what I experienced. And I don't say that it's exactly like I said it now, but that is the story what I made up now from the things what I figured out.
And that resonates with me in a lot of levels, not just through my experience, but just a lot of research I've done for the last few years. That bound, that you have that bound, you have that as a victim of human trafficking, you want to get out of the country, let's say, and you want to go to somewhere that you have a better life, because your country might not be like Nigeria or somewhere that you don't have the life you want. And people promise you other things and just like, okay, here you go, we can help you out of here, we can take you to the country, this is what's going to cost you. And then they get you there, but then like, now you owe us, here's a tab. But while they do that, not only you have a tab that you have to work off, now they're still housing you, they're still giving you food, they still like taking care of you, like they meet your basic needs, which means that tab continues to run. So no matter what you do, no matter what work you do, no matter how much money you're giving them, they keep running the tab, and it creates this impossible situation to get out of that and be free from them. So you become this slave, you become this constant, money-making machine for them. And very different ways you can do that. They can throw you into a situation where you become a slave, literally, for a rich family, that's labor trafficking, or put you in prostitution, or you even become a drug mule for them. So there's very different ways that they keep you in prison, in that you owe us, and you're not going anywhere until you pay us up, while they continue to run the tab. So that tab never runs out. So that's what it reminds me of, and there's a lot of people have that experience as well, and that truly is some of the examples of human trafficking.
I mean, I just realized something. I had actually a TV interview on a public TV channel here in Austria. But at this time, I told them to hide my face, not display my name, and I even wanted that they distort my voice. But they convinced me. They said, "Oh, this doesn't sound good on the interview, and if you're fine with it, at least your voice should be the original." I just realized that I'm recording this podcast, and it's the first time that I don't hide telling this story. Because I got in contact with the human traffickers. I know them in person. And I figured that out much later. So now I'm exposing myself to them, and they know who they are. If they ever watch this interview here, they will know whom I'm talking about. I don't name them because I don't want to expose myself too much. Because my ex-girlfriend was right. They are dangerous, and when they fear that they are exposed, they might do things what might be not so beneficial to myself and my family.
Yes.
But I say it out loud now. I lived with them in UK. They were the so-called best friends of my ex-girlfriend. And why I figured it out that they are the human traffickers is because I got in contact with a Nigerian woman here in Austria. She was involved in this whole thing too, because her ex-husband, who is this guy whom I visited in UK, a lot of coincidences. I think they planned it this way to lure me to them, to keep me in their control circle.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of it. Absolutely.
They wanted me to get away from my ex-girlfriend, my girlfriend at this time, and they wanted that to be separate because they realized that I'm dangerous for their business. So I think it was not a coincidence that they wanted me. It was actually somehow my idea to go to UK and to visit them there, but they had nothing against it, obviously, because they knew at least I'm far away from this woman. So anyway, this woman whom I met and who was married with this guy, with this human trafficker, she didn't know either what her ex-husband was doing. She just came with him from Nigeria to Austria, and she experienced strange things in her daily life. And one day she found her passport with a different photo in there.
Wow.
And asked him, "What is happening here? Why is there a photo from another woman in my passport?" And then he told her actually what he is doing, and he said, "Yeah, if you could help me to take care of these women, because she should be the so-called madame, how they call them in Nigeria. And the madame is the one who is taking care of these girls whom they bring to all kinds of places, in this case to Austria, and who is taking care, like in Austria we say somehow the mother of the bordel." And she said, "No, I won't do that." And I have to say, she is a very brave woman.
Yes,
because she said no.
That is very brave, and that's very.
And she even got divorced from him. She got protection from the police. Now she married about 10, 15 years ago. I don't know exactly, the Austrian man, and has now a new family. But she is still in danger because they know her. Obviously, she even founded a organization which is called Exit, just Exit, which is helping women in this with these problems. But she's also not only that she wants to help these women who are here already, she wants to help avoid that they are coming here already. And what she is doing is actually she is educating women in Nigeria, first of all, about that human trafficking exists, and second, she's giving them a perspective
Mm-hmm.
in life. She's
That's
giving them
awesome.
that what you said before, what they are looking for.
Yes.
That the human traffickers don't have a chance anymore to pick them up there. And she
That's
is, um,
wow.
she has actually a fashion brand. It's called Joadre because her name is Joanna Adesuva Reiterer. So I can name her name because it's anyway publicly available everywhere. And every human trafficker in Austria knows her name. So I can say
Uh-huh.
it out loudly. So, and that's why, because Joanna, I think it's part of her name. Joadre is her fashion brand. And these women in Nigeria are producing fashion. And you can order this fashion. So they are produced on demand. So you order it, and 2 weeks later you get your dress or something like that, and it's really produced on demand.
Wow.
And then she sells it here in Austria, and this money helps again these women in Nigeria. So she calls herself a social entrepreneur, which means it's a mixture between business and charity.
Mm-hmm.
So she
I
lives
love
from
it.
it too, but she doesn't make so much profit like a normal business would do.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And actually, this woman helped also my ex-girlfriend, but she actually she didn't accept this help, let's say this way. She was fleeing then to Italy, and what happened then, I don't know. If she is still safe, I don't know, but it was really a traumatic experience for me too, because she disappeared for 6 months, my
Mm.
ex-girlfriend, just like that. And I thought, now they caught her.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they killed her. I don't know what happened. And then
Yeah.
luckily she 6 months later she said, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm with my friend there in Italy." And yeah, but of course it was traumatic for me too. I was involved in this whole thing too, and she was, after all, she was my girlfriend. I loved her, and I wanted to know that she's fine, even though I knew that this relationship doesn't have a future with her. I still wanted to know at least that she's fine. And actually,
Wow.
there's even a child involved in this whole thing.
Oh.
This paper, yeah, let me tell you at least the rest of this story, and then I'm finished for today with this story, because I think this is an interesting part of this story. These people whom I call the human traffickers, this family also around there. This one woman, she was the best friend of my girlfriend. And she told her to have a kid with a Nigerian guy who had actually Austrian passport, who was actually Austrian at this time already. Because when you have a kid with an Austrian, then they can't bring you back to Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
Why they told me not to do it with me is because Otmar he knows too much already, and he thinks already this thing is too suspicious, and they knew already that I was on the track already. So they tried to lure her away from me, and it was almost 1 year that I didn't see her. And this was in the time when she had this. Actually, I'm just mixing up things. I really have to write it down that I have the chronology. Actually, the baby, she had it while we were still together, but she
Mm-hmm.
had this affair with this other guy. And she even told me 3 months, while she 3 months pregnant, she told me, "What I have to talk to you. I am pregnant, but it's not from you." And I said, "How many months?" "Yeah, 3 months." And I said, "Yeah, now I get it. It can't be from me, because the last 2-3 months you were never at home. You were just partying everywhere, but it can't be from me, the baby, because you were not even at home."
Mm-hmm.
But I said, "Yeah, I appreciate that you're so honest. Let me think about it. What we do now." And actually, I wanted to disappear. I was scared to death. In which situation did she bring me there? First of all, this human trafficking thing, now this child. I just wanted to run away. And she caught me while I wanted to run away. Because she came home earlier and she said, "What are you doing? You're packing your things." I said, "I just wanted to leave to my dad's place." And that was the moment when I decided to stay. I said, "Okay, let's do this together. I accept this child. We can walk through it together. I will accept this child like my own." Okay, fast forward, the child was born. I took care of her and the child like as if it would be my own. And on the same day she was in hospital, she had a C-section and it was not easy for her, the whole thing. On the same day she disappeared.
Wow.
Just actually a short visit at home. I mean, it was actually 3 days later. As I said, I'm just mixing up everything because it's a long time ago and I really have to write it down that I get more the chronology. But 3 days later, just a short visit at home, packing all her things, and she disappeared. And I even asked the guy who was waiting there downstairs for her, because I helped her to bring the suitcase there. I was also a Nigerian guy who was like a taxi driver for her. And I told him, "Please don't tell her that I asked you, but where are you going?" And it was actually to this good girlfriend. So I knew where she was going. And on the next day in the morning, I went to this place. I was really desperate. I was knocking there early in the morning and they were really surprised that I showed up there because they didn't know how did I know how did I know that she was there actually. And I knelt down in front of her. I was crying. I was begging her to come back. I said, "Please, you can't do that to me. Now I accepted this child and you just want to leave me now? For what reason? I helped you through the worst part of the last couple of months, took care of you while you were pregnant, took care of everything, and now you're disappearing?" And I was really in tears. And everybody was watching me. There was this other woman, this friend from her, who obviously planned all these things. I was very naive at this time. I didn't know anything. I didn't know that she was the one who planned everything. I didn't know that she was the sister-in-law from this human trafficker, this friend of her. Yeah. And then my girlfriend, she told me I will stay here for 2 weeks because my friend, she has 3 kids. She knows best. She is a mother. She can show me everything, how I take care of my kid. And I accepted. Okay, for 2 weeks is okay, and then you come home. But she didn't come home. She disappeared again. And this time for 1 year. And she stayed actually with this other guy who was the father of the baby. But they told me she went back to Tyrol, a place where she came the first time when she seeked for asylum. And this made sense somehow, that they ordered her back to Tyrol for asylum seekers. Yeah, they thought quite well about all these stories so that it made sense. So fast forward, 1 year later, she called me crying. "He beated me." I said, "Who beated you?" "Yeah, the father of the baby." I said, "Jan, where's the baby?" "The baby is with the police or somewhere with the people who take care of Abaddon children." She doesn't know actually where the baby is, and she was crying. And she said, "Please pick me up there and there. Can I come to your home? I don't have any place to stay." And good-hearted as I was, I accepted. But first visit was at the police station, where they knew what happened actually. And actually there was a fight between her and Tim, and later I figured out that she was actually not so innocent as she told me in this fight, but very often we fight like that. And yeah, they took care of the baby, these authorities. And he had actually, I don't know how it's called in English, the I call him now father of the child because I didn't have any other relationship to him. He had actually, there was an order from the police. He was not allowed to visit his own apartment for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So that she
Restraint.
could go,
Restraining order.
Yeah. So that she could go there and take her things out from the apartment without being harassed by him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I went there actually with her together, but I called the police before. I said, please, could you come with me? I want to go to the apartment with her to take some things out from her. And they told me actually, yeah, but we have the keys. He has to come to us to get the keys. I said, I don't care what you tell me. Please come with me. I asked these 2 police officers to guard us because I don't know what this guy will do to us. And maybe he is waiting for us there. It's really a weird story. And I never had so much to do in my life with police than in these 3 years with these police who take care of foreigners, with these people who are investigating crimes, all kinds of police officers. Yeah, so this was the story about the baby.
Wow.
And I saw the baby again. Obviously, he was 1 year old at this time. And I saw him a couple of times. He was a boy. She called him Armstrong, like Neil Armstrong. And she forgot the toy there. At the end, I disposed everything in a trash can because I couldn't see this toy anymore, and I couldn't see all these things anymore because she never picked all her private belongings. And I know it must be frustrating her if she ever figures out that I threw all her pictures and everything in the trash can. But I needed to end the story for once and forever. And it was so much emotions with all these things what I had at home from her, these photos and everything what she left there, and especially this toy from the baby. I cried many nights when I saw only this toy. I even wanted to bring it back to the father because at the end I had a good relationship with him, and he told me too that she told him a lot of lies. And we were somehow good friends through these stories then. Because I said, okay, she told you lies too. Yeah, she told me a lot of lies too. But I think that was her protection against these people who were hunting her.
Yeah.
So I just realized I'm making a solo cast here. But I think it's a very important story to tell it. And it's finally out to the world. And I really intend to put it live on my podcast, so it will be there.
And thank you for sharing that, because human trafficking not only affects the people that are being trafficked, but it affects the people around them, directly or indirectly, absolutely. And today I watched a video of an 8-year-old little girl being rescued by police, and I can't remember what city it was, but it was so devastating. They rescued her from a pedophile from the hotel, and they found the man naked and the little girl naked. And I watched it and I sobbed, and I felt everything that it was bringing up for me. And they had the body cams on the cops as they carried the little girl out of there and talking to her, we got you, you're gonna be okay. And they just carried her out of there while they arrested the person. And the father, the little girl's father, was in the parking lot. And the first thought to me was like, it's not only affecting that little girl, it's affecting everyone in her life.
mm,
And it's and not knowing, not knowing what the signs are, not knowing what to look out for. And you said it too, having that safe family environment, having that emotional safety, having that emotional intelligence within family units to really create that container for children and for their parents or anybody involved, to have that open conscious communication so that people feel safe, the kids feel safe, the adults feel safe to share, to talk, to feel safe to go, hey, this is what I'm going through, this is what's happening. So they're not seeking, so we're not seeking attention and all the other stuff outside, where there are people out there who's going to take advantage of it. It's so key, and that's really my message to every time I talk about it, is to, we are individuals, we're responsible for our own well-being,
mm,
and adults, and if we don't turn to ourselves and don't look in the mirror and go, how am I not okay, and what can I do to change that so that I can be there for those who are actually depending on me, the
yeah,
children in my life, those who are not in that place yet, so that I can be there for them. I can offer them a safe container. I can offer them that safety so that they can express themselves, so they can be themselves. They can experience themselves as their truth and not have to feel unsafe to be themselves, to feel, to talk, to ask for what they want, and then go outside of that. To me, that's key, and that's why I always talk about self-care and the whole idea of human trafficking together. And I have done a lot of presentations in the last year in Southwest Florida to medical professionals, to different groups that I was invited to. And I not only share my own story and not only share data, but I only share the idea that I could not be that safe container for the children in my life, niece and nephew,
mm,
or other people in my life, if I didn't take 100% responsibility for myself and my own well-being, if I did not look in the mirror and I healed all that craziness that I've been through to, and did not take responsibility for my emotional trauma or and anything else,
mm,
I could not be that stand, and I could not show up the way I show up. And to me, that's key for parents, for caretakers, for aunts and uncles, for grandfathers and grandmothers, to do the same thing instead of just blaming the world for what's happening to the children in their lives. We got to take responsibility for ourselves so that we can be that safe container, so that we can model for those kids that
mm,
are that they are safe to be themselves around us.
yeah,
And yes, I see a lot of people outraged. I see a lot of people angry. I'm angry. I feel anger. It's not like I don't feel anger. It's not like I'm not outraged. It's not like I'm not disgusted with what I'm seeing, because the deeper I dive, the more disgusting things I find. However, my self-care practice, and I know you asked me about that,
mm,
is the key, the foundation for my ability to be present, to be kind, and to offer a safe container for those who are ready to ask for help. Because I tell you what, when I was helped, when I was rescued, the key was that they created safety for me to say, yes, I need help.
mm,
That no matter how much fear I had in me,
mm,
no matter how much I was threatened, no matter how much my family was threatened, that person created, held a safe space for me so that I felt safe, even though I felt fear, to speak, to tell them what's going on, to tell them what I'm going through. Because I tell you what, the victims of human trafficking, people that are in there, the fear has drives them more than
mm,
anything else to stay quiet, to be in denial, and to not to ask for help because of the threats, the brainwashing, and the manipulation that they
mm.
go through. We actually believe that nobody cares and everyone will harm us.
I
Safety.
experienced exactly this, what you're just telling me.
So safety to me is key, but I cannot be that safe container if I don't take care of myself. I saw a few videos with people that just want to stand up and they are outraged and they pissed and they're coming and I respect that. I totally respect that. I have that experience too, that I feel it. But I'm also conscious of not to show up from that space. And I think I spoke about that in my last live video where there is a place for me to feel my rage and anger and move through it. But when I stand up and when I go speak and when I want to be there for someone who is hurting, who is terrified, who has no trust for anybody because of their experiences, they will not open up to me. They will not come to me for help. They will not feel safe to say, please help me if I show up from that rage, if I show up from that anger. But if I come from that place that I already handled my anger, I already handled my rage, I already moved that through, but I'm still there to be compassionate and create a safe space because I come from the peaceful, present, and loving and kind and gentleness, that will create a safe container for them. And that will send a totally different message, which means, okay, this could be my opportunity to be saved. This could be my opportunity for my freedom, and this could be something that I have not experienced yet that I'm willing to take a risk on and open up to right now. And that is my greatest message to people. You want to do something to dissolve human trafficking, start taking care of yourself. Get real with your own trauma, get real with your own pain, get real with your anger, your rage, because you are not serving a purpose of helping people who wants to be rescued, who's ready to be rescued and want help because they are terrified. And showing up angry for them, going, I'm here to fight for you, that's not safe. That is not going to create a safe environment and opportunity for them to go, oh, please help me. That's just going to make people even more frightened and more shut down. And it's just going from one threat to another threat, a way they perceive it. So thank you for sharing that story, because just through my own experience and everything that I have done the last couple of years to take care of me so that I can be a safe container, no matter what I'm going to be doing or how I'm approaching the situation, is key. And I have a sense that your ex-girlfriend didn't have that safety for herself, even though that you done a lot of things for
She
but
was really even paranoid. I mean, at the
yes,
end, there was even psychiatrists taking care of her
absolutely,
because she was all the time telling me the black men are following me.
absolutely. There's
She was
always that
talking about
paranoia.
obviously her own countrymen, the
I
Nigerians, the black men.
I yeah, I
And we
still
were
have
at
those moments.
in the tram in public transport in Vienna, and I said, "Which black man? I don't see anyone."
I still have those moments sometimes when it just kind of I flinch and I have memories of, wait, I still have those moments like, do I want to talk about this? Is this going to get me in trouble? Is if the more people hear about my story, is this going to come and bite me? Like, I still have those moments, but I can't, and I'm not willing to live in that fear of what if,
The
and what
only
if I
thing
speak up,
you
that
realize
will
that
happen.
the only thing what I don't do is to name them
Hmm.
because
And
they
I'm
are.
not going to name anybody either. That was my experience. That was way back
I
then. It was
just said
simple.
the different countries, the places where I've been, but I didn't tell the address or the name of anyone. Um, the point is, I wanted to say one thing, what you said about safety, because I think that is a very important point, as you mentioned it too. I talked with a very high-ranked police officer who is actually somehow the head of the department. Yeah, he's actually head of the department for who's taking care of the police here in Austria for human trafficking. I met him at a discussion. He was invited from Joanna Reiterer, who is this woman who has this association or this charity, which is called Exit. And I talked with him in person, and he said, the problem with human trafficking is, or the problem with the victims is actually that they don't perceive themselves as victims, or at least they don't say, this is the perpetrator and I am the victim. So the police has nothing in their hand. They can't even file a case, because if there's no victim and no perpetrator, then there's no case.
Yep. That's
And
totally, that
that's
is
what this
many
police
cases.
officer told me. He said that is the biggest problem with human trafficking. So that's why the police, in the most cases, can't do anything.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. There's a lot of people who doesn't
And
identify
it
as a
has
victim.
a lot to do with this safety thing, because they want to be safe. That's why they don't expose the perpetrators, the people who are in this. I guess
Yes.
you can say one thing or the other too about this.
Yes, and human traffickers use that fear tactic to go, you don't know who I have. You can't, if you want to go to the cops, like that's just an example. You want to go to the cops and get help, just warning you, you do not know who I have paid off. You don't know who's in my pocket. So that's one of the ways that they can manipulate the victims of not asking, not going to the authority, because they actually tell them that could be a bad cop because I might pay him off. So you don't know which is which. Or they just that kind of mental games that really puts that constant fear in the person to go, I don't know who to trust, because that person could be also partnered with the human trafficker that I'm stuck with. So there's a lot of mind games, there's a lot of manipulation, there's a lot of fear mongering. And ironically, what's going on in the world these days, there's a lot of fear mongering, there's a lot of threats, there's a lot of manipulation going on a larger scale. And to me, it really reminds me of those years, of those experiences. And that kind of brings me to like, how big is this? How big is this enterprise, which is already over 150 billion dollars a year globally? It's literally, it's going to sound weird to some, but maybe it's literally beating the drug trade out of the race of being the #1 criminal enterprise around the world.
Sorry that I interrupt you. There's something else what I wanted to say, especially about Nigerian human traffickers. They have something what they call juju, which is like a voodoo magic thing. And people very much believe in this in Nigeria. And actually, Joanna Reiterer made me aware of this, because she said she was under such a voodoo spell too. And that's what they do with these victims in Nigeria. They have to swear on their menstrual blood. They cut some hairs from the private parts and they put it together with menstrual blood, and they have to swear on this that they will never expose them in their whole life.
Wow.
No matter what happens. And this is much more powerful, this superstition, I call it now, which keeps the victims really entrapped. It's way more powerful than they tell you, I kill you. This superstition is like, it's like the chain is locked.
Yes.
Sorry that I interrupted you, but I wanted to mention this, that the people understand how can it be that they don't say anything.
Yes, there's different cultures, different groups, different parts of the world.
In Nigeria, they even stepped it one more step up. They're even more cruel there.
Yes, they use anything, and human trafficking doesn't discriminate. So it's not just about people that traffic people out of and cross the borders. It could be your neighbor. It could be that sweet grandfather who you see walking down the street sometimes. It could be the Susie homemaker living in a great gated community in the U.S., which plenty of examples for that. There were plenty of cases that they found human trafficking rings in a beautiful gated community. The mama was staying home, and guess what? She was trafficking kids in the neighborhood. There was a grandfather who was trafficking his own 9-year-old son across the Florida on the weekend, and telling him if he says anything, he will do the same thing to his little brother. And his own grandmother didn't know until he went to one of the presentations that the organization did that I was with. So it doesn't discriminate. It's every walk of life can be the victim, and every walk of life can be the perpetrator. It does not discriminate. It absolutely the most horrendous and heinous crime against humanity right now, us in our lifetime. And when I see people, and I totally respect that. Fear is one of those things that either give you the power to snap out of it and want to do something about it, or it's going to have you put your head right into the sand. I respect either one. However, I respectfully ask those who prefer to put their head in the sand to get the hell out of the way for those of us who would like to dissolve human trafficking. And if you don't believe in what you are seeing because it might be that horrific that you actually don't want to believe it, that's fine. But please, I respectfully ask you, get out of the way. Don't you want to doubt it, you want to question it, great. But please don't get in the way with the theories, with the accusations, with the shaming or anything. I respectfully ask for people, get out of the way if you don't want to be part of the solution. That's it.
Do you know what the TV channel made out of my story? Whom I gave the interview to, I said I gave a public interview to a public TV station, which I can name actually. It's the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation, for which I'm working now. But this woman who made the interview, she called me actually, how is this word now called in English? A lot of words which don't come to my mind. Someone who goes to a prostitute and who is paying. I don't know how this person is called.
I know what you're talking about, but it doesn't come to me.
And they called me in this documentary afterwards like that. The only thing why I forgave them is because they didn't show my face and they didn't write my name. But I said to Joanna Reiterer, because she was the one who asked me to make this interview, I said, I hope it helped to expose these things. It helped to tell my story. But you cannot count on me again that I will ever give an interview to this TV station again, because they do what mainstream media does best. They change the story how it fitted in their picture.
Absolutely.
And I could have sued them for this actually, because I was never a client from her when she was a prostitute. She was my girlfriend, and that's how I met her, as a woman who is from Nigeria and who happened to be an asylum seeker at this time. That's
totally get it.
But I never knew at this moment that she worked as a prostitute. And this TV station that turned it around, now we had another topic with mainstream media and their lies.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. There's always going to be people, places, and things and organizations that's going to, want to get in the way of things.
But I just also wanted to make people aware of that, which is anyway not a secret anymore, that mainstream media are also lying. Even when they're exposing the truth, they're still lying.
And that's why I highly recommend people to ask questions and to dig for themselves and to think for themselves and be curious. You want to watch the mainstream media? Great. You want to watch an independent media outlet? Great. However, no matter what, I question everything I think and believe. I question everything, even the things that comes out of my own head. I even question that, because I want to be present to the truth, and I want to be able to take action from that presence, so there's not more damage being done from the reactions, from the emotions that I might deny in a moment. And it's, to me, the most essential practice. And talk about things are not essential these days. To me, the most essential practice to be part of that solution is self-care. That is, to me, the most essential practice right now. And yes, some people say, well, that's selfish. You know what? I prefer to be selfish so that I can be the most selfless person in my truth, to be that and help those who are ready to do the same, but they still need some support to get there. And if that's called selfish, if that's called wrong, that's fine, label it. But I'm not going to step down from that.
The best metaphor is when you sit in a plane and the masks come down, you put it first on your own face, that you can help
Exactly.
other people.
Exactly. That's been told since the aviation industry is going on. That's the first thing they tell you. Something happens, the first thing you need to do is take that air thing and put it on yourself. Take care of you first so that you can help the person next to you. And society has been so brainwashed into you have to depend on something else or somebody else to be okay. And if they're not doing it for you, you can blame them. That is not responsibility. That is not being a conscious person, that's conscious part of society. That is victimization. That is brainwashing to me. And that's fine too. If somebody wants to choose that experience, I'm totally respectful of that. But just get out of my way. Get out of the way, those of us who consciously wants to truly do something and dissolve that disgustingness in our world right now, because the kids that are suffering and the generations are coming did not ask for this. They not the one that's going, hey, let me suffer. No, we're creating for them because we are selfish enough to not to give a crap right now about what's going to happen based on what we're doing. It's this, what every moment I choose to do or not to do, it's going to affect my next moment.
Yeah.
This generation, whatever is happening around the world right now, what we're choosing to do is going to affect the next generation. And if we're not going to start choosing consciously, I don't even want to know how that's going to affect the next generation, because it already is. And so, yeah, I respect people's choices. And I'm also willing to go, I zig and you zag, and I still love you. Let's just stay out of each other's way so that we can both focus on what we want to do and create, even if it means it's totally different and we don't agree on anything.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the solutions, because we talked a lot about problems and you mentioned self-care. And what are your solutions?
I don't, to be honest with you, I'm the kind of person who doesn't like to tell people what to do. I would love to give ideas, and I love to share ideas. I love to share my experiences with people, because there's so many out there. There's so many possibilities for even one person to implement into their daily lives, to implement into their whole lifestyle to take care of themselves. And I come to find that those things change all the time. I change things up all the time. A few years ago, I was very committed to daily morning meditations and journaling and very rigid and But I found that as I change, as I do my own inner work, as I take care of myself, things change for me too. So what worked for me one day, it's not going to create that same effect the next day. So what I like to do is create the platform where the platforms and up until the pandemic started, up until we got shut down, up until we got shut down. I like, it's okay for me. It's okay to laugh about it right now. Up until we got shut down, my platform was really about events, up close personal events for people, where I can offer a platform to bring together solutions and desires. So bring together, service providers, products, speakers, coaches, mentors, businesses, whatever, and offer the community to come and join them for a day with speakers, with vendors, and so on and so forth. And the whole intention was to not to tell people what to do, not to tell people this is the system that's going to work for you if you want to be about your self-care. This is the step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. None of that stuff. It's been done way too many times. Whatever works for me is not going to work for you. Maybe 60% of what I've done is going to be successful for you. The other 40, you're going to have to go and pick and choose for yourself. But it's really about have people come in, and I always thought it was almost like I'm offering you a buffet. Just like you go to a big cruise and there's this buffet, and everybody's going to create their own plate. Everybody's going to go and put the pieces on their own plate based on their desire, based on their taste buds, based on what they want to enjoy in the moment. To me, self-care is the same way. The world is your oyster, like this giant thing of opportunities, infinite possibilities for you to pick from. How you want to take care of your mental wellness, how you want to take care of your emotional wellness, how you want to take care of your physical stuff, your spirituality. Pick and choose, see what resonates with you. It is so much fun to be present with the possibilities and go, that really, like, that clicks for me, like that nutritional company, or oh yeah, that book clicks for me, or this program clicks for me. I really resonate with that. And be curious, have that childlike curiosity and taste things. It doesn't mean you have to stick with it. It doesn't mean it's going to be for the rest of your life, or maybe, I don't know. But my idea of self-care is people trusting their gut feeling of what's going to support them in that moment, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, to be able to get to the next moment as present, as healthy, and as just conscious as possible. And that moment, see what is it that you're called to do next. And so my self-care routine changes all the time. And I don't do the same thing every morning. Like I did share with you that there's certain things that are my daily routine that I start with, and that's some nutritional products. But I change that up to here and there, depending on how I feel, depending on what my intention is for the day, depending on how much sleep I got. And it's really, to me, everything goes back to this. I trust myself so much that I will not make any decision, I will not take any action before checking in with me to see what will support me in that moment to get me to the next moment, to as fully and healthily, as a full and healthy person, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And going back to our mutual friend Brian Ridgway, one of the greatest reminder he has ever given me is that there is nothing more important, nothing I want to say, want to do, or have is as important than for me to become present before I say, do, or have anything in my life. And I implement it into my self-care practice every single day. Every morning when I wake up, one of the only questions I ask myself, what do I feel in my deepest truth is my most authentic response to this moment? And I feel what comes up for me. And it's different every time. Sometimes it's just to keep sitting. Sometimes it's to get up and go do something. Sometimes it's to attend to myself and withdraw from everybody else. Sometimes it's to go hug somebody, moment to moment, but without being present and giving myself that respect, that love, that conscious kindness and gentleness to listen to myself. I couldn't be doing what I'm doing, and I couldn't feel the peace and the confidence that I do these days, regardless of the circumstances of the world, of my own life. And my business has been shut down since March. I'm one of those people, as my business is the least essential business right now. I'm an event, I'm a speaker. Everything as of March 16 was X'd out for me right now. If and there's uncertainty surrounds everything in my life. And I have a choice to dive into that and wrap it up with fear and do all the doubting and that stuff, or be absolutely present with everything that comes up for me and just choose again and again and again. And that is so it's a combination of so many things that I use every single day, but the number one for me is to listen to myself, my body, my emotions, what my nervous system is doing, the sensations are going, listen to my thoughts without getting all tangled up in them. And I cannot, and I will iterate this over and over again, I cannot do that without being present.
Present, yeah. There's one thing a step that I still didn't take. I think, you didn't take it voluntarily, that you gave up your job or your business or everything. You didn't, I mean, if we consider Brian Ridgway, he would say, yeah, it was your choice. You're the chooser, the creator. You should
Absolutely.
take, yeah.
And that's one of the things that I'm really excited and grateful for is that I know somehow I'm the one who created this whole thing because I personal responsibility to me is the gateway to freedom. Personal responsibility is to me is the gateway to joy. And I can look at this, oh, it's the government's fault. I don't have a business, da da da. I can blame, or I can just like, you know what? This is actually offering me infinite possibilities, and I am curious what it is. I am truly curious what it is that, okay, so I'm not doing the events right now. This is great, but you know what? It does not mean that I have to give up on my intention. It does not mean I have to give up on my vision of helping people, to creating platforms, to bring people together, to help them, to give them opportunities for self-care options, to bring, awareness to how to dissolve human trafficking. It does not mean that. It just means that can be done in infinite possible ways. And I'll be honest with you, I'm grateful that my business is where it's at right now, because I was able to see so many other opportunities with a nutrition company that I would have never looked at. With traveling, I would have never looked at. Actually, I would have looked at it for like another year probably, even if I did. So it really opened up so many different doors and windows and cracks in the wall for me to go, oh wait, okay, so that's not happening right now. What else is possible? And that is the kind of mindset I'm in. And honestly, I know it can be perceived, oh, you just don't care because obviously you don't believe in any of that. No, I care. And that is the key for me to show that I care, that I will, and call it cocky because whatever. My confidence comes from my own willingness to look into the mirror and finally love the parts of myself who've been through all that craziness, and finally just accept those parts of me with love, kindness, and grace, to the point where I can look in the mirror confidently every single day and say, I love you, I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so excited for what we're creating together. And I know that I would not be able to do that without all the craziness I went through. And without the people that I have in my life today, like you and Brian and the many other people that I met through this experience. And the funniest thing about that is that most of the people that I met through this past few months of experience around the world, we don't agree on everything. Some of us don't agree on anything. And we still have an amazing, conscious, kind, graceful, and respectful connection, no matter what.
Yeah, I think we should call it an end, because I loved those words, and I just thought it's a nice ending of our conversation, because yeah, this is what I wish to see in this world, what you just described. And that's why I'm so grateful that I found you, and that I found everyone else who is gathering around Brian Ridgway, because these are these people who are really changing the world with their consciousness. And yeah, that's what I actually wrote also in the description of my podcast, and I mentioned it in almost every episode, that I want to change the world. And some people ask me, are you crazy? How do you want to change the world? I said, it's quite easy. You just change the world by being present, by being conscious.
Yes.
But most of the people don't even know what I mean by that, but you just explained it very nicely.
I say one thing all the time when people say, I just want to be the difference. I don't know how I can do that. And I want to make the difference in the world, but I don't know where I belong. The only advice I ever give to people is, if you want to change the world around you, start by changing the world within you.
Mm. That is so true. I think we have to make another episode because there's still so much to say. But
I welcome that.
I thank you that you took the time. I was just wanted to ask you, is there anything what you want to tell me about? Because you just said that you are building up a new business, and is there anything what you want to say about that?
I'm really just taking what I already started last year, and I'm moving it into new platforms. I still have the event moved to next March in Florida, the end of March. It's called Your Freedom Seminar, and it's the same idea, it's the same intention to offer people a platform to come together, and it's evolved, that expanded with everything that's going on, and it's I'm not going to get into details, but my intention is to really just create platforms, whatever it's going to look like, online, traveling through Europe, in the States. If anybody is in resonating with that and welcome the idea of being interested, yeah, absolutely.
I resonate with that.
Yes, I'm always open to brainstorm and see who, how, where, what we can bring to the table together. And so my intention is to continue to do that and to shifting things around right now. In the next couple of months, I'm focused on being here with my family and really just getting my footing in Europe and working on my nutritional part of my business, and get that up and going, and then see and just kind of see. Right now I'm in that space, and I feel that it's for me to see and kind of just be present of how things going to unfold when it comes to the event industry. So for that, and I might just move everything to the European platform. I don't know. There's infinite possibilities. The intention is the same, is to offer people the possibility to come together with the solutions for their desires, and to remind them that they have the free will, they have the ability to trust themselves, to know what's going to serve them to move forward with their lives in any form of fashion when it comes to self-care, and it's coming to creating a life that they truly prefer to live. So that's the intention right now. What that's going to look like, or what the event's going to be, how the experience is going to look, I'm not clear, but I'm definitely feeling it's going to be a lot different than I was expecting in the first place. As more and more I'm talking to people, and more I'm sharing about it, and the more peaceful I get around it, the easier I can see it is just unfolding in itself, and it's welcoming a lot of new people, and it's bringing a lot of new intentions, a lot of new energy into it. So that's all it is. So I'm interested in people's feedback. I'm interested in conversations, and I'm definitely welcoming opportunities to collaborate with people to bring these platforms to the masses, to locations, no matter what's online or in person. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. And just love yourself. Really, that's my only message to people right now, is to those moments when they seem the toughest is probably the most. Those are probably for me the moments when I do my best to practice the most kindness and gentleness towards myself first, and that gives me the option and the opportunity to go, okay, it's really not as bad as I perceived it up until that moment, and I can be there with that gentleness and kindness for the world as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for this really great conversation. I really enjoyed it, even though it was some,
Spontaneous.
It was spontaneous, but there was also things which were a little bit emotional for me, especially the story about my ex-girlfriend. But I still enjoyed it, and I'm so happy that we had this interview.
And I thank you. I'm infinitely grateful for this, and I think our conversation would give people an opportunity to see there's different sides of that, human trafficking, and how different people are, affected differently in the process. Be it someone who's actually being victimized, or people who are cares about them. So that's an important part for people to be aware of as well, and just to be kind, no matter what the situation, no matter what the person is, because we just don't know what each person's inner world looks like and why they're choosing to behave or do or not do what they do. And assuming we do is, to me, the greatest illusion.
Yeah. So I hope you will join me for another conversation.
Absolutely. You just tell me when and where, and I'll be right there with you.
Yeah. I wish you a good evening, a good night, and see you soon.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.